asked you guys to send in some holiday-related confessions. Had a shit house with a quad bike. I wonder what this entails. 17 years of age in Zante with a fake IDR. Tut. We do not encourage crime of this scale on the George M channel. No. A group of 6 of us thought it was an excellent idea to hire a quad bike each. The only problem is I hadn't even driven a car yet, let alone a quad. I mean, I've driven quad bikes before. They're not as hard as a car. They're basically a motorbike, but with 4 wheels, which makes it safer. You just go like that, right? You just go like that, and then one of them's a brake. It's not hard. I thought I was Billy Big Bollocks going off on my own to hire the biggest, fastest one. And the first road I drove down, I instantly crashed 50 kilometers an hour into a ditch, broke the seat mirrors, and petrol was leaking. Still have the scars, to be fair. Fucking hell. Although this is where I thought I was genius. If I get super glue and glue down the mirrors and return it quickly, in and out, they'd be none the wiser. I think they would be the wiser. I think they would be. The second I arrive, he slapped the mirror, spinning it around a few times, pulling me by the collar as some woman is sweeping the floor below me to get my legs moving. They pull me into the back room, which is some decrepit shithole where there are a further 4 men. They lock the door behind me. Now I'm in a dimly lit room with 5 men and 1 woman all shouting at me in a language I don't understand. I'm speaking to them through my phone. I'm a sweet guy, so we end up talking it out. I hand over my shoes, man bag, and t-shirt and let them know I'm going to my room to get Sorry, did you have to give that to them as insurance? Usually you just hand over like your ID or something. They made you walk back fucking half naked. They made you walk back without shoes as insurance. I returned with money, shoeless, topless, and bagless, and the shop was shut. Turns out they pulled down the barricade to fuck with me and were all mocking the cut-up shoeless freak for a solid 30 minutes before they accepted my money and return. You did crash their quad bike, to be fair. You did crash their quad bike. I think they have license to fuck with you a little bit. They show me videos of myself looking lost and dazed and upset outside of the shop while laughing. Also, I was an apprentice at this time, so I literally had to pay 1 month's worth of work. Fucking hell. This one is just titled The Blood Man. Hi George, in 2017 I went on holiday with my grandparents and cousins to Lanzarote and stayed in an all-inclusive resort. On this resort there were numerous bars and independent restaurants you could visit included in your all-inclusive, so naturally we went to visit them. One evening me and my family went, but I stayed behind to talk and drink with a girl I had made friends with, and we stayed there until the waitress told us we had to leave and make our way back to the apartment. Problem was it was pitch black and we were a little lost. The resort was huge and none of the staff spoke good enough English to guide us back, just gave us vague and confusing directions. We were just walking out when we noticed a bloke sitting on one of the outside tables in what appeared to be a red shirt with his back to us and a pint. We tried our luck and asked him for directions because what Spanish man was drinking a pint of Carling? That's a very good indicator of a British man. He's got a pint of Carling in hand. To our horror, he turned around and this man was drenched in blood, as in it was dripping off him and his hair, and you could tell it was blood based on the smell. His shirt must have been white and stained with it, but he didn't seem to be bleeding from anywhere. He just stared at us with crazy eyes, but he had to shut them due to the sheer volume of blood dripping into them, and me and my friend quite obviously stumbled back in shock. He stood up as we backed away and asked us for our names, which we promptly bolted away and found our way back to our rooms eventually. I reported the incident to the hotel and the restaurant. However, the restaurant claimed they had 0 CCTV and accused us of lying and being drunk. I mean, did no one else see the man drenched in? But maybe you saw a ghost. Maybe he wasn't. I reckon you saw a ghost. When I inquired about the pint and how he must have bought it in the bar, they doubled down. To this day, I have 0 clue what the hell happened, and I either saw and run away from a poor bloke who'd had an accident, or there is a serial killer there. I don't think there was a serial killer at your all-inclusive resort. I think typically serial killers tend to hide their tracks a little bit better than walking around with blood drenched over them as they drink a pint of Carling in an all-inclusive bar. I reckon you both saw a ghost or something. I don't know. I reckon that's more likely than seeing a man drenched in blood. Hi George, my holiday starts with me and my family going to Turkey in 2022. We landed in Istanbul and are going through passport control. Everything is fine except I get held up. I was sent on a goose chase around the airport for a member of immigration control to clear me, but they wouldn't let me through even though I told them that this is my first time in Turkey. The head officer said they wanted to see my old expired passport, which I was confused by. Yeah, no one travels with that old expired passport. After being denied, I was put in a holding room and they detained my passport because they couldn't confirm if I had already been to Turkey. I checked to see why they wouldn't allow me, and they thought I was someone who got travel banned in 2016 for 5 years of overstaying a visa. Very weird, because that person would have their ban status lifted by 2021. Immigration officers take my fingerprints, mugshot picture, and rummage through my personal belongings while keeping me in the dark. I then learned that I am now banned from traveling to Turkey for 5 years until 2027 because they believed I was someone else. The only information the Turkish immigration officers offered offered that matched my information was Muhammad Ali, a fairly common Muslim name, British citizen and being born in 2000. Bear in mind, this is all they had to match me, and this is vague information. My passport has very specific middle names, and they didn't even have a full date of birth of this other person. I was held in a I was held in a concrete cell overnight until 6:30 a.m. when I was put back on the first flight back to the UK. I couldn't sleep, had nothing to eat and drink since the plane journey to Istanbul, and was treated like a criminal despite having done nothing wrong and being falsely identified as someone else with insufficient generic information. The immigration officers were very rude and generalizing my name with other Muslim names, which left a sour taste in my mouth. It felt discriminatory and disrespectful. I tried to contact my local MP and even the Foreign Secretary about this issue, and I had no action to overturn the ban because the Turkish Immigration Authority were not cooperative. Bloody hell. I mean, I wouldn't even really call that a holiday story because you didn't even get to go on your holiday. Dodging a pedo whilst writing off a country for myself. Hi, George. This is probably the worst moment of my life, and I thank God it happened in a different country. When I was 11 years old, my parents and two younger brothers went abroad to see our family. Now, where we went, it was very common for people to leave their kids with others while they went out for errands, work, etc. So naturally, whilst in the all-inclusive, my parents left me and my younger two brothers in the resort whilst they went to the market. My brothers were upstairs and I was around the pool with some friends I had made. Now, this is where it gets creepy because we noticed a guy who had to be at least 20 to 25 just watching us from across the pool. We kept moving around the pool, yet he kept following us. Later in the day, and my friends end up leaving and there's only 2 or 3 of us left, and this is when he makes his move. He comes up to us all smiling and offers to buy us drinks, not drinks from the resort, but alcoholic drinks. We, of course, said no and started to walk away. When he keeps following us and saying he just wants to be friends, nah, he's a pedo. He's a massive pedo. For a bit of context for what I did next, I grew up in post-Maddie McCann Britain, so in my 11-year-old mind, I was convinced I was going to be kidnapped if I didn't do this. Instead of finding the staff and telling them what happened, I decided to piss and shit myself. Yes, you read that right. I decided that the only way to get this potential nonce away from me was to soil myself. To be honest, it's pretty... It's a Route 1 strategy, I'll give you that. Isn't that like what Marines do? Like, say they're about to get captured by, like, an enemy, they will just scream and shit themselves. So, like, the people capturing will be like, oh, fucking hell, they're mental, we're not going to go anywhere near them. It worked and he never bothered us again, but those friends never hung out with me again for the rest of the holiday, and I had to be walked up to the room by staff members so I could shower. Fucking hell, that is an absolutely horrible story in this video that's supposed to be funny. Hi, George, mate. I went on holiday with my friend and his family. We were 16 at the time, to Spain. We got given adult wristbands, and thinking I was the bollocks, I decided to drink 8 pints in an hour. How do you even fucking stomach that? 8 pints? Pints of beer kind of act as food a little bit for me because they're basically liquid bread. How in the fuck are you stomaching 8 pints in an hour? Whilst me and my friends were having lunch, I started to feel sick. Oh, I wonder what that could be. And I said I had to go back to the room. As I was stumbling all over the place back to my room, I couldn't help myself and was sick to my left. As I was throwing up, a guy in a wheelchair happened to be on my left. I was sick all over him and I couldn't stop throwing up, so I just said sorry, mate, and kept going. Couldn't you have turned your head to the right? The worst part was he was there all week and we would constantly lock eyes, but I was too embarrassed to go over and say anything. I was 16, so I was automatically a dick. I then made it back to the room and had a bath and fell asleep in the bath for the next 2 hours. My mate's dad had to climb over his balcony to get into our room to make sure I was alive. I'm now 20 and his family still refer to me as sick boy because of this moment. Hi, George. This one is a little hectic, at least to the family. So the family decided to take a wee all-inclusive holiday to Egypt back in October, and the holiday we were staying at takes the guests clubbing every night. That sounds absolutely horrible. Me and my sister had went a few times and our 70... Okay, right, so it's not compulsory. You're not forced to go clubbing. It's just an option. That's quite nice. It wouldn't be very nice if they made you go clubbing. Me and my sister had went a few times and our 73-year-old Nan decided to come with us on one of the nights. This particular club gives out free drinks to women for the first hour, so Nan took full advantage and had a few too many vodka lemonades. She was up dancing with the hotel staff and doing shots with one particular entertainer from the hotel. Me and my sister were with a couple of mates we made at the hotel, and after a while we noticed Nan and the entertainer were nowhere to be seen. So we go about and ask the other staff where they went, and they said he took her back to the hotel, so we didn't think much of it until we got back to the hotel and learned that Nan and the 20-year-old entertainer had stuck off for a cheeky little shag in his mate's apartment down the road. To this day, we still take the piss out of her for it. Poor granddad is shaking his head from above. Oh, no. Oh, fuck. That's horrible. That is awful. Oh. Oh, no. Okay, that's horrible. That's what I couldn't stomach that. If my nan had slept with a 20-year-old hotel entertainer, I don't know what I would do. I really don't know what I would do. Would I cut her off? I don't think so, but you can never look at her the same again. Hello, George. So basically, this was around 4 to 5 years ago. Me and my friends, all aged around 18 to 20 years old, went on a lad's holiday to Benidorm. Yes, nice. It was our third night of 5 there, and we decided to go on a night out. After going out, me and my mates must have been mortal, because the next day I got kicked out of the hotel for shitting all over the corridor. Me, obviously in visible confusion, started arguing about it, saying I didn't do it. They said there was CCTV proof. Me, so unsure on how they had this, was intrigued and watched the CCTV footage and found me squatting against the walls and shitting all over the walls in a drunken state, thinking it was a toilet. Me, in total embarrassment, left the hotel and refused to go back to Benidorm ever again because I shat all over the walls, pissed as I thought. Okay, right. That's terrible. That's really bad form. You can't shit on the walls of a hotel. Naughty. Holiday breakup and new relationship. Stayed with a girlfriend I really didn't like for an extra 4 months because we booked an expensive holiday to the Caribbean. Realized how much I couldn't stand her during the 2 weeks. 3 days before we were due to go home, we had a massive argument. I ended up meeting another girl within a few hours who I stayed with for the last 3 nights. My ex seen me with her on the beach and punched me in the face. That's not good. The plane home was very awkward and her dad, of course, refused to give me a lift back. Long story short, I moved abroad for a new girl and she rinsed me for all my money. We ended up having a very expensive wedding in which all my family came over. A family member died during the ceremony and she was blamed, and she blamed them for ruining her big day. Obviously, the relationship broke down. I had to move home with no fucking hell. Jesus, you've had a hard time, haven't you? We did a lot of robbing whilst we were in Magaluf. Oh, hard. Oh. We were all on a night out, obviously, and these random men found us and one of them kept flirting with me. Me and my best friend noticed the place we were in just had full bottles of vodka, only a hop over the bar away. Of course, we needed them, so as initiation for this random man, we decided to peer pressure him into jumping over the bar and grabbing us some. He grabbed 2 and we made him go back and get another, but he got caught when he was getting the last one, so me and my best mate just left with 2 bottles of vodka whilst he was getting the police called on him. Still don't know his name, but I hope he's doing well. Me and my best mate also fell prey to some men around the swimming pool, so of course we made them give us a hotel room tour. And whilst they were in the bathroom, whilst they were in the bathroom, we robbed them blind. No, that's out of order. That's bang out of order. It's one thing stealing like fucking cheap vodka from a bar. Nah, you don't rob some nice men in a hotel swimming pool. My best mate, that's actually fucking really bad. My best mate managed to make away with a Hippo. No, that's bad. That's really, really bad. Hippo watch, a Versace aftershave, and a wallet with all his euros, cards, and ID in. I grabbed all their alcohol, which was like 2 bottles of duty-free Deserano, duty-free Olemka, and 2 free bottles of vodka, and we ran out. It was the last day of our holiday and the first one of theirs, so they still invited us around for pre-drinks that night and didn't realize they'd been robbed until we were at the airport next day. We convinced them it was the No, that's really bad. That is really fucking bad. I'm very disappointed in you. Very, very disappointed in you, George M. Viewer. Extremely I've never been more disappointed in a George M. Viewer in my life. I met Stephen Mulhern and shat myself. Hasn't Stephen Mulhern been like a topic of a previous confession? Like in one of my other confessions? I don't know. Maybe it was some other British TV presenter. I think it was 2019. I had gone to Butlins with my family for a getaway. I hadn't been before and didn't realize they had special guests during holidays. It was summer. In the afternoon, me and my cousin went to the bar that they had there while the rest of the group settled into the caravan. My cousin and I were so bored we began doing dares. For a while it was tame, shout at the stage, ask for a girl's number, etc. Eventually we were scrambling for new dares and my cousin spots a tray of nachos sat at the bar, cold and stale. I was dared to gobble the whole tray and of course I did it as I was 5 shots in and seeing double. Hey, sorry, you're old enough to drink and you're going on a family getaway to Butlins, mate. No, I love Butlins as a child, right? Butlins is sick when you're a child, but if you're like of legal drinking age, I mean, I don't know, family holidays to Butlins, it doesn't seem like the greatest place to go. We were getting ready to head back when my cousin saw a familiar face sat nearby, Stephen Mulhern. He was sat in the area as he had done a magic show an hour or 2 prior. My cousin walks over to him and introduces himself, and to be fair to him, Stephen is a genuinely kind guy. I walk over and introduce myself to him and ask for a photo, which we captured together, and we actually sat and had a word with him, just small talk about work and some of whatever was relevant at the time. My stomach felt like it was churning inside out, and I tried to make a signal to my cousin about making a move, but he had no idea what I was doing. He continued talking to Stephen. When it happened, I shat my pants. I just stared down at my shoes with shame, and only when I was brave enough to look back up, I saw my cousin and Stephen Mulhern staring into my soul. My cousin was quick to say, let's get going, but the damage had been done. Stephen covered his nose and said goodbye, and For some reason, I stuck out my hand for a parting shake and Stephen just shook his head. Fair enough. I left and turned around thinking about how bad that went and thought, oh well, catchphrase has been shit for years and never brought it up, nor has my cousin, and I have never gone to Butlins again. I bet whenever some Stephen Mulhern TV show is on the TV or he appears on like a Christmas special, you're just like, fuck, you get that memory back to you. Jesus, that's a horrible memory. Sorry, what? During a recent trip to Greece, a conversation about the smell of spunk came up, and that has to be up there with one of the most intellectual discussions to happen in Greece. Up there with conversations between Aristotle and Plato, the great emperors and all them. I reckon this could top all of their discussions. To test this theory, I went to the bathroom while everyone was in the bedroom and I violently beat my meat while everyone cheered me on. After 30 long... I'm telling this very quickly because I don't really want to be reading this. After 30 long, painful minutes, I spunked into a cup and brought it out to the group as a show and tell. This was for science, no weird reasons. Yeah, there's nothing weird about that, mate. Nothing weird about that story. Back in 2020, before lockdown, I went to Italy on a school trip. I was in S3 year 9. There were 50 students and 5 teachers, 25 boys and 25 girls. On one of the days, we went to a zoo and one of the boys there, Connor, had really bad anger issues and impulse control issues. So he needed to be with a teacher the whole day. But one of the girls, Zoe, fainted, so all the teachers were fussing over her and Connor left for 15 minutes. Once Zoe was better, the teachers couldn't find Connor. They looked everywhere. We were eating our lunch near the Hippo enclosure whilst one of the teachers went crazy. When my friend yelled, "Why is Connor in the Hippo enclosure?" We all went over to the Hippo enclosure and Connor was sat in the middle of the hippos. We got a zookeeper to get Connor out, but safe to say he got a loud lecture for the teacher and he got sent home. You know, I think it's hippos are the most dangerous animal in Africa in terms of how many people they kill every year. I'm going to double check this. But hippos are really fucking dangerous. Okay, right. Mosquitoes are the most dangerous animal, followed by snakes, hippos, and crocodiles. Yeah, hippos are fucking dangerous, man. They'll kill you. They're fast as well. Have you ever seen a hippo run? I'll find you a video of a hippo running. Yeah, look. It doesn't look that fast because it's like fat, but that is fucking... Look how rapid that fucking thing is. Mate, it's so fast. It has no reason to be that fast. It's so unaerodynamic, but it's so fucking rapid. Mate slept with our elderly French teacher. I graduated during COVID, so obviously I couldn't do anything, but me and a group of mates decided that once it cleared up, we'd go on a trip to celebrate finishing school. We eventually chose to go to France, rent a car, and do a trip of Europe. We booked a hotel in Paris and decided we'd spend 4 days in the city. Day 1, my best mate decides he'll open up Tinder to find love, only to be greeted with our old French teacher who had retired in our first year of school. He swipes right and so does she, and as far as I know, that's all that happens until one night while I'm going out for a smoke, I see him and a girl sneaking into his room. I go to bed thinking nothing of it, only for the next morning to get up early to go for a run and see our 68-year-old French teacher walking proudly from his room. Safe to say we haven't let him live it down. That is, yeah, disgraceful. Disgraceful. This one is simply titled Gooner Grandad. Dear George, a few years back, I was on a family holiday. Everyone went out to dinner except my granddad because he claimed he felt ill. A few hours later, everyone had come back from dinner. We found him in his room watching Babe Station at full volume on the hotel TV. His excuse was it was all that was on in English. I mean, fair enough. It was either that or BBC World News. Well, I'm going to leave it there for this video. Like and subscribe or you'll catch your granddad gooning to Babe Station.